Greetings. Thought I'd do a little show on. Well, someone inspired me to do this. Someone got in touch the other week saying, "How do you have the energy to do all this?" So I've replied, obviously, do all what? And they were saying about to do the work. Obviously, I didn't know that's what they meant really, but I wanted to be a bit more specific. And you know who you are I'm sure you're watching this. And we had a super conversation about it, about how we waste energy, how we create energy, how we use energy properly, and kind of got me thinking about various things that are said about energy, because energy is continuously ongoing. It's a continuous movement. And I think I was brought up to be told that in science that energy can come to a stop. Well, I don't think it does. I think it changes into something else. That energy transmutes into something else that would then be another type of energy, which is why energy is constantly happening. Nothing really stops at all. Things either change, whether it's through growth or an expansion or collaborates with something else. I don't think anything actually stops. Even in death, you could go on to, right to think we go on to other things, or that life force energy is transmuted into something else. So we were having this quite interesting conversation back and forth on emails, which I usually find quite difficult to have a conversation emails going back and forth, but I quite enjoyed this one. I'm not saying that I'm against emails or anything. Sometimes I like having one-to-one talks with people or group talks, because I like that energy that's created when people are within each other's presences. We feed off each other's energy. We help enliven, hopefully, other people's energies. We can also bring other people's energies down with our doldrums and our sadness. Or, I remember a guy I know he doesn't watch any of these shows, so it doesn't matter that I say it, suffered really badly from depression. And one day he blew me out I can't remember where we were going, but I was really pissed off that he'd blown me out. So I stormed round to his house, and he was sitting there all depressed, and I could feel myself wanting to have a go at him for it. And I was trying to say to him, I don't understand why you're feeling depressed. We're supposed to be going out and going and having a good time. And now with hindsight, I can see, obviously his energy was dwindling down. Maybe he was looking to be a bit of a energy vampire. I don't know, but because it dragged me down. You see how we have different energies like that. But then I probably made it worse by being pissed off that he didn't want to go out that night. I remember another guy that I knew who did the same kind of thing, blew me out one night. Well, no, actually, he didn't blow me out. He got in touch saying, "Oh, I don't feel like going out. Would you like to come round to mine?" But I'd learned by then that if I'm with people that are heavily depressed and I don't watch myself, I get depressed myself. And he said this really strange thing. He went, "It's not catching," meaning his depression. And then I obviously went round there to help him, and then explained that it is catching in a way if one doesn't protect oneself, which is what we should all be doing. We should be aware when someone's depressed, we must not let it bring us down. If we're aware of what state they're in, we don't let it affect us, but we can still be there for them. We can still go and see them and just make sure we don't get pulled into the spiral downwards. We try to pull them up through that spiral upwards. Sometimes people that are down, depressed, their energy is so low that it's very hard to pull up, because they kind of reach that black pit of only they themselves can really drag themselves out of. We all want to be heroes. We all want to help people that feel like that. We all want to get everybody back up on their feet, but sometimes people need to just do it themselves. That's them creating their own energy. I was going to say from nothing, but I've just said that energy is never from nothing, but it's a very low vibration energy that needs to be energized to lift him or her back up. I'm sure you know many people that have lots of energy that are bouncing all over the place. Drives me nuts sometimes. fidgety people. That's, you know, over excessive energy that they don't know what to do with. But for us doing the work, we're trying to take that energy that we've got and transform it. Gurdjieff says we can take the energy from other people where they're wasting it, you know, like a fidgety person. We should be able to somehow tune into that energy and turn it around to make it work for us. Still not quite got that, but I'm working on it. I'm going to get Josh to come and talk about it at some point. You know, like the another thing Gurdjieff says about how people waste prayers or don't have meaningful prayers. And he says about going to the church and stealing everybody else's prayers. I think in a way what he's trying to say is make sure your prayer's more worthy, thought out, intentional, and then let it ride on them kind of useless prayers, steals their energy to help lift it up. Because most people's prayers really are just pleads for something they need. Or people do it mechanically, where Gurdjieff's is telling us that we should be doing it with intention, obviously, a conscious prayer, conscious of what it is we're saying to the divine when we're sending that prayer up, and consciously sending it up there. It's just getting a little lift from all those other prayers. But going back to energy, I was reading some Ouspensky, and this is from Record of Meetings. Because again, with these emails I was telling you about with the person at the beginning of this little bit, we were talking about energy and having to create the energy to work. And I've said many times, it takes effort. We need to put that effort in to do that work. And many people find it difficult to start. And it's something I actually learned when I was doing my Kabbalah training many, many years ago, of the most difficult thing to do is to take that first step. But once you've taken that first step, the energy starts working and pushing you forwards and pushing you upwards to do what it is you're supposed to be doing. It's like with the Kabbalah, for those that know it, it's a tree, starts with Malkuth at the bottom, goes up to Yesod, and then it's becoming like a zigzag up. But you have to get off that Malkuth into Yesod, the foundation, to push yourself upwards. So I know many people that work with the Kabbalah down, from the top down. I've always thought we're trying to attain to the divine rather come back. You know, if you're doing it the other way from the top down to the bottom, you're going from the divine down to the earth. But then, you know, they probably are people that are looking for material things. I'm looking for heavenly. But it's whichever way you go, or whatever you're doing, taking that first step is a big, well, it's obviously an initiatory step, and it's pushing you forward to create that energy and do it. Sometimes you need a real oomph to go forward. And as we all know with Gurdjieff's work, he says this happens to everything that we do, whatever it is in life. There comes a moment where that energy starts to dwindle and we need a shock or effort to make us continue. Or if that doesn't come through, we just give up. Well, I hope you people on this work, whenever you get them little shocks to help you move forward, you are going onwards and upwards. But we do have moments when our energy seems to come, we think it comes at a standstill. But I think what it's doing, it's like pondering, it's ruminating inside us, waiting for that. Well, it's working on itself and coming together. And then when that next step comes along, we're ready to jump onto it. Sometimes we are so full of energy to do this kind of work that we rush ourselves through it and maybe don't take in everything properly on our path of going onwards and upwards. You know, I used to be one that wasn't very good at details. I used to just want the bare facts. Now I'd keep going, where I've realized now details are quite an important part of things. You know, as they say, the devil's in the detail. And I have to try and restrict my energy of jumping forward and instead try and calm myself down, or maybe not calm myself down, make myself stop and look at everything that I'm dealing with at that moment rather than trying to rush to get to the next one. But anyway, Ouspensky was saying, this is from Records of Meetings. it's book 2. Nobody can help you to want to work. You must want yourself, and you must do what you can. I think it means you must want to work yourself, and you must do what you can. If you do this, you will want more and more, which I must admit I have found in life. If it's something that I really want to do, I do want it more and more. And if I don't want to do it, I'm kind of like, my energy lulls, goes down, and I find it a real effort to continue with that project. But if it's something I want, and I want to learn about it, or I want to accomplish something, the energy rises. And then I've got to make sure I don't speed through it. But that's just me. I'm sure you've all got your own ways. And I have to go forward using that energy to help me learn everything I can about what it is I want to know. So Spensky says, if you do this, you will want more and more. How can we increase this power to work? Only by working. There is no other way. And I kind of agree with that. By doing the Gurdjieff work, the more I put into my life Gurdjieff work and exercises, the more I want to know more, because I can see how it's influencing me and waking up parts of me and perhaps balancing parts that were out of balance. And that makes me eager to want to know more, because I want to improve myself all the time. If something bores me, which obviously the Gurdjieff work doesn't, I lose interest. And well, I used to think that it wasn't for me. If I was looking at some other esoteric path and it wasn't quite going the way I wanted it, or I wasn't throwing myself into it, I would probably step back after I've known the basics and then come back to the Gurdjieff work. But it's always interesting for me, and I hope it is for you. I like looking at other paths because I learn something from them, or maybe it says something in a way that I didn't understand when I was trying to read it through Gurdjieff's way of doing it. So how can we increase this power to work? Only by working. There is no other way. If you learn to make small efforts, it will give small results. If you make bigger efforts, you will get bigger results. It is necessary to put more energy into things. I mean, into your self-study, self-observation, self-remembering. And in order to put more energy, it is necessary to find where energy is going. And that's something I had to look at with myself a lot. Where was I wasting energy? And I know I wasted a lot of energy, maybe in relationships. Obviously, we all stress and worry. I could see how I wasted a lot of energy of that. One of my favorite saying is, I try not to worry about anything, but people do worry. But worrying is kind of like sitting in a rocking chair. You rock all day and go nowhere. And worrying is the same thing. You can worry about things, but unless you're doing something about it, worrying is not getting you anywhere. But it's also a waste of energy. It's a waste of your energy that you could be using in another more positive and productive way. Right then, so where was I? Right, so you wake every morning with a certain amount of energy. It may be spent in different ways. A certain amount is necessary for self-remembering, study of the system, and so on. But if you spend this energy on other things, nothing remains for that. And that reminds me of something Maurice Nicole wrote about. And he said that one of the most important things in the morning is to be aware of what you are thinking. And I myself used to suffer quite a bit. Or if I'd go and do a meditation or something, or some exercise, and then go and have my breakfast. And then suddenly I could feel, if I hadn't got something to go ahead to do straight away, like go to work or whatever, some distraction, I would suddenly start thinking about things that would get me quite down, or something would happened in the past that pissed me off, or something that was worrying for the future. And from a supernatural point of view, I wonder if it's like demonics seeing you in that quiet moment, trying to attach themselves to you to put strange thoughts into your head. Or do we do it to ourselves? Why do but different versions of ourselves suddenly put these worries and thoughts into our heads? Maurice Nicole said that it happens mainly in the morning, and I noticed it in myself, and I spoke to other people and found other people had the same thing. We have to really be careful of what's going into our heads in the mornings, because that sets us up for the day. So we have to be aware of them kind of thoughts and not let them get us down, not let them make us waste energy. Right. Try to calculate every morning how much energy you intend to put on work in comparison with other things. How can we do anything if we don't give any energy, any time to it? You must give a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy, then very soon you will see results. And I know Gurdjieff used to say to his students, do this at whatever hour, or do this, another exercise at a certain hour. Like, remember to do it. Remember what you're doing at 11 o'clock every morning, say. And it's something that keeps you kind of on your tiptoes, but it makes you suddenly look at yourself of, am I wasting energy? What am I doing? Am I aware of where I am or what I'm doing and how I'm acting or reacting? You know, these exercises are to make us more aware of ourselves, as it says over them mystery schools. The words as you walk in is know thyself. And this is one of the major things about the Gurdjieff work. It's teaching you to know yourself, so that then once you know yourself, you can become more aware of how the outside world works around you. And Ouspensky also says, you cannot begin to think about storing energy before you learn to stop leaks. We spend our energy in the wrong way on identification and negative emotions, all considering, lying, idle talk, expressing of negative emotions. These are open taps from which our energy runs out. Stop these leaks, and then it is possible to store energy. And that's what I was meaning about what was happening to me in the mornings. I was leaking, and we all do it, you know, and we have to be aware of that when we're doing it. Because I used to think, I don't know, maybe that's a silly thing to say, but anyway, it used to really stress me out. Why do I always have these strange thoughts in the morning? And I know a lot of people have them just as they're going to bed, and it keeps them awake. You know, I'm quite lucky. I can put my head on my pillow and I'm out like a light. So I understand it also happens to people at night, that they stay awake for hours, wasting energy. Then in them taps run and energy just flow out. We've got to be control of them taps, them facets, and know that when to turn them off, know when they're dripping. That's another one. Energy drips out of us. But instead, we should be using the energy in a more productive way. And I had some quotes about that. Let me just find them in this from Ouspensky. Where was it? Ouspensky. So this is from In Search of the Miraculous. If we could succeed in bringing the production up to the possible maximum, we should then begin to save fine hydrogens. And obviously, Ouspensky and Gurdjieff talk a lot about the hydrogens and how energies can be calculated at certain hydrogen, it's not degrees, a bit rough. Well, you know, the hydrogen table. So if we can be aware of how we're using that energy and then use it more productively, then we'll get maximum effect from it. And he's saying, then the whole of the body would become saturated with these fine hydrogens, which would gradually crystallize in them. This would gradually bring the whole organism onto a higher level, a higher plane of being. And that's what we're trying to do. We're using this energy and this Gurdjieff work, obviously, to take ourselves onto a higher level of being, and crystallize ourselves. And crystallization is made, crystals are a vibration. We want to be the highest vibration, so we're the clearest crystals as we crystallize our inner being, so that we become like diamonds that shine in the rough. And in the same chapter, Ouspensky reminds us there is a possibility of increasing the output, enabling the air octave and the impressions octave to develop further. It is necessary to create a special kind of artificial shock. If a man tries to remember himself at the moment of perception, an emotion, a thought, or an action, every impression will be doubled. For the two octaves to develop further, a second conscious shock is necessary. The practice of not expressing unpleasant emotions, of not identifying, not considering inwardly, is the preparation for the second effort. God, isn't it difficult not to not to identify, very difficult not to identify with things. especially when we're, perhaps in the workplace and we're with people that don't, and I mean like your day job workplace or your rat race job, and you're not with people that do this kind of work. We get caught up in the gossip, get caught up with the talk around the kitchen table or whatever. Get caught up talking about other people. This is all waste of energy and not good for our conscience either. Not good for our moral, well, where we're being, our moral score. And he says, and he reminds us that the effort which constitutes this shock must consist in the work on the transformation and transmutation of the emotions. In order to regulate and balance the work of the three centers whose functions constitute our life, it is necessary to learn to economize the energy produced by our organism, not to waste this energy on unnecessary functions, and to save it for that activity which will gradually connect the lower centers with the higher. And in our day-to-day lives, we let we're usually working with our lower centers. So we're creating, quite weak energy, putting us along in this material lunatic asylum that we live in. But when we work on ourselves, we're fine-tuning that energy and making it of a higher quality so that it begins to reach to our higher centers. And that's what we're trying to develop, our higher centers, so that we can reach a higher version of ourselves and start working with the whole construction of the universe and work with the divine and live in a harmonious universe. So I hope your energy is activated by this show. Keep your energy on a higher vibration, and just be aware when we fall into negative patterns and negative roles. But thank you for watching, and hope everything's fine with you guys, and speak to you again soon. Love your messages, love commenting your comments, and I try and stay in touch with as many of you as I can. So peace and love to you all.